entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this sort, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time to wear the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Yes, a great many. From the top of one of the hills quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that is why you live in town.
Quite a charming room this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there was anything approaching good taste in the more remote country districts. The fact is quite a surprise to me.
Oh, I'm afraid you judge of the country from what one sees in town. I believe most London houses are extremely vulgar.
I suppose they do dazzle the rural mind. Personally, I do not see how anybody manages to exist in the country. If anybody who is anybody does, the country always bores me to death.
Ah, this is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering very much from it just at present. It is almost an epidemic among them, I have been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl. But I require tea. No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the finest houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I asked you most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no things which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I thought you false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest, my own Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such a silly idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack! Oh!
Here is Ernest. Ernest,
Yes?
may I ask, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young? Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Yes, good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Of course not! Now what could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I hope there must be some slight air, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief, oh! Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. Well, my name certainly is
is your brother Ernest. We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of no small importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time that I've ever been reduced to such a painful position, and I really have no experience doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite candidly that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I never had a brother, and I have not the slightest intention of ever having one in the future.
No brother at all?
None.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Not even of any kind.
I am afraid that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
Oh, it is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the garden. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are such cowards, aren't they?
Pretty mess you've gotten me into. What on earth do you mean by coming down here pretending to be my brother? Perfectly monstrous of you.
What on earth do you mean by pretending to have a brother? It was absolutely disgraceful.
I told you to go away. I ordered the dog caught round for you. Why on earth didn't you take it?
I hadn't had my tea yet.
This ghastly state of affairs is what you call bundering, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful bunbury it is, too. The most wonderful bunbury I've ever had in my life.
You have no right to bunbury here.
What is absurd? One has a right to bunbury wherever one chooses. Every serious bunburyist knows that.
Serious bunbury is good heavens.
Well, one must be serious about something if one wishes to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about bunburying. What you are serious about, I haven't the remotest idea. About everything, I should fancy. You have such an absolutely trivial nature.
But the only slightest satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to run down to the country quite as often as you used to, Algy. And a very good thing, too.
Your brother's a little off colour, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was. And not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
I can really see no possible defense at all, Jack, for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax. Say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
Well, I am in love with Gwendolyn. I want to be married to her.
But I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I don't see there is much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax ever being united.
Well, that's none of your business.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It is very vulgar to talk about one's own business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and they're merely at dinner parties.
How you can sit there calling me eating muffins while we're in this terrible business, I can't quite make out. You seem to me to be perfectly heartless.
And I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. No, one should always eat muffins quite calmly, and when not speaking, preferably. That is the only way to eat them.
I say it's heartless.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that can solve me. Indeed, when I am in really great trouble, as anyone who knows me intimately will tell you, I refuse everything except food and drink. At the present moment, I am eating muffins because I am unhappy. Besides, I'm particularly fond of muffins.
There's no reason for you to eat them all in that greedy way.
I wish you'd have some tea cake. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens! I suppose a man can eat his own muffins in his own
Oh,
house.
you just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you under the circumstances. That is a very different thing.
That may be so, but the muffins are the same.
Algy, I wish to goodness you would go.
Well, I can't possibly go yet. I haven't had my dinner. No one ever goes without their dinner, except vegetarians and people like that. Besides, I've made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up this nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:30. Naturally, I will take the name of Ernest. Gwendolyn would wish it. We can't both be christened Ernest. That would be absurd. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I like. There is no evidence that I have ever been christened by anybody. I should think it extremely probable that I never was. Dr. Charson would think so too. It is entirely different in your case. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I haven't been christened for years.
But you've been christened, that is the important thing.
Quite so, and I know my constitution can stand it. You are not sure about your ever having been christened. I must say I think it rather dangerous you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone closely connected with you was nearly carried off in Paris this week with a severe chill.
Yes, but you said yourself that it wasn't hereditary, anything dreadful of that kind.
It used to be, I know, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements.
May I ask what you propose to do now, Algy?
Nothing! But that is precisely what I've been trying to do for the past 10 minutes, and you have kept on doing everything in your power to distract my attention from my work.
Well, I'm going out into the garden to see Gwendolyn. I feel quite sure that she expects me.
I know from her extremely cold manner that Cecily expects me, so I certainly shan't go into the garden. When a man does exactly what a woman expects, she doesn't think much of him.
No, one should always do what a woman doesn't expect.
Just as one should always say what she doesn't understand. The result is invariably a perfect sympathy on both sides.
Nonsense. You're always speaking nonsense.
It is a much cleverer thing to speak nonsense than to listen to it, my dear fellow, and a much rarer thing too, despite all the public may say.
I don't listen to you. I can't listen to you.
Oh, that is merely false modesty. You know perfectly well you could listen to me if you tried. You always underrate yourself. An absurd thing to do nowadays when there are such a lot of conceited people about. Jack! You're eating the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. I'm particularly fond of muffins.
I hate tea cake.
Why on earth do you allow it to be served up to your guests then? What ideas you have of hospitality.
It is not the point. You're not discussing tea cake here. Algy, you're so maddening. You never can stick to the point in any conversation.
No. It always hurts me.
Heavens, what affectation. I loathe affectation.
Well, if you don't like affectation, my dear boy, I really don't see what you can like. Besides, it isn't affectation. The point always does hurt me, and I hate physical pain of any kind.
Algy, I don't want you here. I've asked you to go. Why don't you leave?
Well, I haven't finished my tea yet. And there is still one muffin left.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the garden as anyone else would have done seems to me to show that there is some sense of shame there.
They have been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
But they don't seem to notice us at all. Don't you cough?
But they haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us right effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
And let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce a most unpleasant effect.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you, and that depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I may have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe.
I don't. But that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. Matters of great importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer me for pretending to have a brother? Or was it in order that
what Mr. Moncrief would say. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then we think we should forgive them?
Yes,
I mean, no. True. There are principles at stake which one cannot surrender. Which I should tell them the task is not a pleasant one.
could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I always speak at the same time as other people. It's your time.
Certainly. Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names, is that all? But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
Please me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
A physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling!
Darling.
Lady Bracknell.
Gwendolyn! What does this mean? Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma. Come here! Sit down! Sit down immediately! Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young, a physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once with my luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture at the University Extension Scheme on the influence of permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But, of course, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards to Algernon. Algernon,
Yes, Augusta.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no! No, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely
Oh,
sudden.
I killed Bunbury. Bunbury died!